Hi, it's KCCK's Culture Crawl. I'm Dennis Green, and my guests today are two of the Beaker Brothers, founder Steve Grismore. Welcome, Steve. And the newest member of the Beakers, Steve Protsman. Steve, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice to have you both. One of the bigger Beaker gigs coming up homecoming weekend at the University of Iowa, and we'll talk about the concert at the Englert before we get too much further ahead. But Steve, I especially wanted to have you come and talk today because the Beaker's kind of an institution here in eastern Iowa, and on KCCK, we've presented the band several times at our events. And as Steve G knows, I personally am a little bit of a fan of this era of music. So you grew up around here, but you haven't lived. Are you moved back or?
Yeah, yeah. I grew up in Mount Pleasant. That's where Steve and I went to high school together. Then several bands and several trips north. We finally stopped up in north central Iowa, stopped moving. I told my wife I wasn't going to move anymore because I didn't want to move into Minnesota. So we were up in that area for about 40 years and just relocated back to North Liberty last year. Yeah.
And you mentioned that you and Steve, the two Steves here, you went to high school together. And did you play in bands together back in Mount Pleasant, Steve?
No.
No?
No. But Steve's, and he's only 2 years class. He's not even 2 years older than me, I don't think, but he was the class of
72.
72.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to misplace you there.
Yeah.
But so what there really was the group of guys that Steve played with, who were the older guys, included Kevin Frost, and I don't remember who else you were playing with at that time, particularly. I know you played with Yates and some of those guys. Don,
Rowdy.
Rowdy Yates. But there were two bands kind of based out of the class I was in, which is the class of 74, which eventually there was a group called Saurus and then a group called E.W. Wood. And we all looked up to these guys because they were so good, and we always admired them. And they were like the first ones that in the area, and we heard them when we were pretty young. And so I've always kind of had this, admiration for Mr. Protsman.
Someday, maybe I'll get to play in a band.
He was such a great player
Protsman.
and great singer, and those guys were serious and they were good and they were inspiration, And so, and just to tie into your story about him moving back to North Liberty, I think we had hooked up a little bit on Facebook before you moving back.
Yep.
And you had just put out a new CD project, and I had gone to your website and I had listened to your music, and it was wonderful. He's got a great album out.
We happen to have that CD, and I know, and it's getting some play.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
Cool.
And so
great.
that with all that said, we were playing out at Cedar Ridge. The Beaker Brothers were, and lo and behold, I look out. This is a year ago or so, and I look out in the audience, and there's this guy sitting at a table with his wife, and it was him. And I go, "What the heck are you doing here?" And he said, "We moved back to North Liberty." And I said, "Oh my God." And so I started, maybe we should play together sometime. And so we started talking, and I kind of very carefully planted seeds in the Beaker Brother bands, one person at a time. I had to be careful how I did that. I'm kind of joking. But I did start to suggest that, hey, this guy is a hell of a singer, really good keyboard player, and plays a little guitar. Maybe we could somehow find a spot for him. And the running joke was simply that, at 6 people, we felt like we were making too much money. And then we thought if we added a 7th member, we could even make less. So
moderate.
Yeah. So it was kind of, we didn't want to, we thought that would be a better thing for us. Anyway, but that's kind of how this happened.
So Steve Protsman, so you're a keyboard player, singer, play a little guitar, and your album that you released a little while ago is
a couple years ago.
Is jazz, pretty much straight ahead jazz album, more or less. Is that where you've kind of focused, or what kind? Talk to me a little bit about your musical journey.
Oh boy. How much time do we have?
Yeah. Well, and the answer especially for a musician in Iowa is a little bit of everything.
Yeah. I have a fairly eclectic background. Yeah, I started Well, there was a guy down in Southeast Iowa that I played with all through my high school years. His name was Spats Allen.
Oh, Spats Allen.
Spats, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I started,
Name I hadn't
you know,
heard.
playing Little Richard, Jerry Lee Lewis, stuff like that. And then I kind of got into the Allman Brothers, Clapton, Santana. Basically, I grew up playing this stuff that the Beaker Brothers play. So it's not been difficult for me that way. Greg Allman was one of my major influences, singing. Lowell George, probably two of the greater influencers of my singing. Greg Rowley, I learned all his licks. I mean, Santana, yeah. So
in some ways, you've been preparing to join this band for the last 50 years.
I have, yeah. And then one thing that you probably hear on the record is I kind of somewhere along the line. Well, basically, what happened is that I heard the Rippingtons and that kind of changed my world in terms of my songwriting took a decidedly more jazz leaning thing. But if you listen, really, I think you hear a lot of rock, pop, R&B, blues influences, just all kind of pretty heavily influenced by contemporary jazz. Russ Freeman, Brian Culbertson were big influencers of my songwriting, but my roots are still in actually the Beaker Brothers song list is really where my roots are. Yeah.
Steve, you joked that you kind of had to approach the band with some care with the idea of adding another person in there because the core members of the band haven't changed in 15 years except for after the unfortunate passing of John Schultz. Then he brought in Bill Peterson.
Yes,
but it's not. New people don't come into the Beaker Brothers lightly.
No, and it really. It's an amazing how I know Steve and I spent a lot of time, and then of course we communicated this with Bill in particular, but we talked a lot about how to make this work. And it's worked, and Steve's being a little more of the organ player, and Bill's being a little more of the piano player, although that's not exclusive. Steve also is a pretty good percussionist, and so on some of the Santana and others, Steve will go to his percussion kits, stuff that he's brought. And so there were ways to enhance and make it work, actually, and in some ways it's kind of neat to have that extra option to do. Now, if we're just doing, the James Gang and there's three people, it starts to get more complicated. But, but overall, a lot of the music we do, there are bands with two keyboards and or the added percussion. Yep. Even the Allman Brothers did that at times. And so it does work. Mm-hmm. I have to tell you a story after this. Was it Freeman?
Russ Freeman.
Mm-hmm. My wife lived with his ex-wife for about 3 years in Nashville. I'll have to tell you that story.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. That was a sideways thing, but it just struck me that I have a story to tell you anyway.
That's not going to make it on the video. You'll have to wait for the director's cut for that one. So, pretty big gig for the Beakers. You've done a couple of these. Big homecoming concert at the Englert right after the parade in downtown Iowa City. Exactly, and that is coming up on the 28th, yes?
Yes.
What now there is a particular theme for this concert, is there not?
Well, the inspiration is the 50th anniversary of Eat a Peach.
By the Allman Brothers.
But so the whole set, though, we're not doing just Eat a Peach tunes. We're doing, actually, interestingly enough, we're kind of doing a collective, and hopefully we're working on the set list right now as almost a run through, but not all the tunes of the first 6 records. You have the Allman Brothers Band, you have
Brothers and Sisters,
you have Eat a Peach, you have Live at the Fillmore, you have, Idlewild South.
Yeah,
Idlewild South, and all these records. And so we've picked some. We've learned 4 new tunes in the last few months, 2 months, 3 weeks. Recently, we've been rehearsing a lot, and so we're going to have 4 new tunes to the live. But we're going to play at least 13 or 14 Allman Brother tunes that night. So that's the repertoire, about 90 minutes plus. There may be a little intermission, but yeah.
So is Steve, of the songs in the repertoire, have you played them all before, or are some of them in that list of, oh yeah, it'd be nice to, would have been nice back in the day to have played this, but never had the chance?
Oh no, there's I've played music by most of the artists, but like Little Feat, for example, I always did. Two Trains was one of our favorite songs. Well, the Beaker Brothers do Spanish Moon. I've never done Spanish Moon before. We do Dixie Chicken, which is kind of right down my alley.
And he's talking also about the Allman Brother tunes.
And the Allman Brothers. The Allman
set.
Brothers. Oh yeah, Statesboro Blues.
One Way Out.
One Way Out, Whip and Post.
Yeah, Whip and Post. You're singing that.
Oh, yeah.
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 But there are some new ones, right? Come and Go Blues. I don't think
I've never done Come and Go Blues before.
And
that's a fun
Don't Keep Me Wondering, which is really fun, which has harmonica. And that's another new one we're doing.
Yeah.
And Melissa
fun songs.
is a nice challenging ballad to do.
Yeah.
So,
and that's one that's kind of been, that one's been off the list for a little while, I think.
yeah, we haven't. The old Beaker. Yeah, we have that problem where we do songs for, and if we don't do it for 3 months, we've got to re-rehearse it because we're getting old and it's you got to try to remember how these tunes go.
Well, as as someone who has heard a lot of music and listened to a lot of music through his life, the thing that has always attracted me from the get-go from the Beaker Brothers is the kind of the deep cuts. The songs, oh my gosh, I haven't heard this song in many years.
We're doing a bunch, the ones we do, plus Trouble No More, Don't Keep Me Wondering, Melissa, Come and Go Blues, Statesboro Blues, help me out.
Southbound,
Whip and Post. Jessica,
which
was when we worked
Memory
on.
of Elizabeth
In
Reed.
Memory of Elizabeth Reed, Hot Atlanta.
Yep.
All those are tunes we're playing.
Yep.
So there you go.
What's the one song you would bring to the Beaker Brothers repertoire if you could? If there was one that you would just love to, either a favorite of yours or one that you've never played and would like to.
Oh, I only had one. Now, are we talking Allman Brothers or just
in general?
Just in general.
Oh, in general. Well, there's already been a discussion with all those.
Oh yeah.
A bunch of tunes.
Boys. There's, I guess to that point, one of the questions that I've asked Steve and we are talking about, do we want to, expand or are we looking for, a new Clapton song, for example? I've got about a half a dozen Clapton songs that I'd like to play. But
Steely Dan,
I'd love to bring some more Steely Dan to the table.
Little Feat, all those guys.
I've got some Little Feat songs I'd like to play, but one artist in particular that we don't do anything if we looked at something that would be completely new for the band, that'd be some Elvin Bishop. I loved
and I wouldn't mind doing it.
Yeah.
After so what's going on right now in a funny way is we first of all, it's been an interesting process getting Steve into the band. Just to talk about it for a second, we determined that the Friday night concert series this summer downtown, which was late July, right, last weekend in July, would be his coming out party. And then we cheated that by a week and had him play, was it Cedar Ridge or where was it at? Oh, it was Sutliff Cider. But we wanted him to have a dry run so that when we did the Friday night concert series, he felt more comfortable because, it's hard. As good as all the players are, there's always issues with bringing a new person into the mix, and plus a few new tunes and the whole way they're going to work. And so it's been kind of a process just getting Steve into the band, that knowing enough repertoire so we could play with Steve full time, right? And so not every tune in our repertoire is part of his thing yet, and we'll get there or not, depending on what we decide to do next. Mm-hmm. And now we're doing this Allman Brothers thing, and after that's over, then we can literally open it up and kind of revisit and maybe learn some more new things that aren't Allman Brothers, for instance. So just to put it in perspective, that's how we're kind of organized. about the music and what we're doing.
Well, and and a lot of bands have their repertoire and then they stick with it. So kudos to all of you for always looking for.
It's kicking,
what
our
could we
butts
do?
a little
Yeah.
bit to learn some new music. Yeah, it's been good. Excuse my French, but it really does. We had an extra rehearsal the other night where we really spent a lot of time just a tune we've been playing for years. What's funny is when you get back down into. You go back and listen to these songs, and we discovered a few little things about Jessica that we wanted to tweak. And, of course, the great thing of having I could go in. When Dwayne died, a lot of times the organ took over the harmony parts on the guitar where it used to double. Well,
and then they brought in Chuck Lavelle.
And Chuck Lavelle is the piano player. And so now what's really cool is where the organ's doubling with what Greg was doing with the guitar on the opening part of the melody, is on organ, and then of course the solo is still on the piano. But he took over the organ part, and Bill's doing the piano solo, and it's just worked out great. And so we retooled some of those things to make it work better with our instrumentation. But it's actually been, in a way, helpful. It works great.
It's the Beaker Brothers in concert celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Allman Brothers' Eat a Peach album, among other things. October 28th at the Englert Theater. Tickets available in advance, general admission show.
Yeah, $20 tickets, $10 for students.
And
tickets are selling. I got a good word from Brian Johansson that this is a couple of weeks ago, and he hadn't sold 100, but it was getting close. So that's not bad to be that far out and still. So please grab some tickets. It's going to be fun. We would love
come watch the parade and then head inside to see the Beakers.
Yeah. Please.
All right.
Be fun.
Yeah. Excellent. And again, englert.org if you'd like to get tickets for that. Or Steve Grismore, what's the Beakers online presence if people want to
Facebook.
keep an eye?
Facebook. We don't have we lost, long story short, but we lost our webpage, but we do have Facebook presence, the Beaker Brother Band, and get on there.
So that's where you can find upcoming gigs.
You can find stuff, yeah. And we've been posting a lot of stuff on Facebook with links. You can see stuff that we've posted. So get on there. It'll take you to the Englert, and then it's easy to get tickets that way.
All right. Well, Steve Grismore, thank you. Steve Protsman, all the Steves. We have all the Steves today. Welcome home. Welcome to this band. Welcome to KCCK.
Feels like home.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great to see you. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's good.
You can hear the Culture Crawl live on the radio many weekdays at 10:20, or download the podcast, watch or listen on your own schedule at kcck.org/culture, or however you get your podcasts. I'm Dennis Green, and I'll talk to you later.